Hello and welcome to the channel. If you like horror movies and creepy stuff in general, I guess, then you're in the right place, because this channel is full of it. And don't be afraid to subscribe if you like that sort of thing.
No, be afraid. Be very afraid.
So let's talk about some of the best horror movies on Netflix. So we're in the middle of a quarantine in my state, which leaves me with a lot of time to watch movies, and I've been hitting Netflix pretty hard and thought maybe we could talk about some of the best horror movies that I could find on Netflix. And I also apologize for my appearance since we were in a quarantine. I haven't been able to get a haircut, so I've been throwing a lot of hats on lately, and I guess I have no real excuse for my beard. There's no reason why I just let that go, but I guess I've just given up on caring about anything at the moment, so I'm rambling, aren't I? I'm rambling.
Get to the goddamn point, eh?
Now, I usually stick to the 80s classics that are way more fun to watch and to discuss, but I also do watch newer movies, and I think there are some decent, watchable horror films that come out in pretty much every decade. And they're sometimes offered on Netflix, and they're definitely worth a watch in my opinion. Also, keep in mind, this is not a countdown. These movies aren't in any special order. I just wanted to share some of the movies that I've watched recently, and I also just kind of opened up Netflix, went to the horror genre tab, and picked out some of the movies that I love and would wholeheartedly recommend, specifically to the type of people that tend to like this channel. You know, like the weirdos.
You are all weirdos. Ugh.
All right, let's start this off with a cheesy 80s horror movie, because why wouldn't we? It's Killer Clowns from Outer Space from 1988. This is a classic campy horror movie from the Chiodo brothers that I'm surprised I haven't talked about on this channel before, because it's right up my alley. Get it? Shadow Alley? Alley? You get it. I don't think I need to explain the plot, because it's right there in the title. It's about a bunch of clowns from outer space that come to Earth and kill people.
What are you gonna do? Knock my block off?
I think this movie has the exact thing that I talk about all the time on this channel, and that's a macabre sense of fun. I know a lot of people that don't like this movie because it's really corny and cheesy and way over the top, but I think that's what I actually love about it. It doesn't take itself too seriously, and it's fun to watch even if it's not scary and realistic. Okay, so this next one is definitely not an 80s classic, but it's a really fun watch, and I think the idea of the movie is hilarious, and that idea is brought to life perfectly by the director. Which, if I'm not mistaken, it's the director's feature debut, which makes it even more of an accomplishment. That movie is Tucker and Dale vs. Evil from 2010. It's about a gross misunderstanding leading to a gory slasher movie. It plays with the tropes of the horror and slasher genres brilliantly, and tries to explain why people are always so afraid of the hillbillies in the typical horror movie.
You okay?
I don't want to explain the movie any more than that, because it's fun to watch the movie unfold, and I think the performances are great, and it's definitely fun to watch, and like I said, it's just a great premise, and the director does a great job making a very watchable movie with that premise. Alright, this next one might be more sci-fi than horror, but I don't know. It definitely has a horror feel to me, and it's under the horror section of Netflix, so don't be leaving stupid comments about, you know, technically, Adam, this is a sci-fi thriller according to IMDb. I'm kidding. Please leave comments about anything. I'll take any comments I can get. This sci-fi horror movie is Event Horizon from 1997. A crew is sent to investigate a ship that has been lost and find out that it has been in some pretty crappy places. You know, like hell. Yeah, the crappiest place. The crew quickly finds out that the effects of that place are still creeping through the corridors of the ship as they try to survive the horrors of hell.
What do you think you're doing, Doc?
You wanted to know where the ship has been. So now you'll find out.
I like movies like this where people have to survive a horrible threat in a single location. Kind of like the original Alien, which this movie often gets accused of ripping off. I think it stands perfectly well on its own though, and I think it blends the horror and sci-fi very well together, which a lot of my favorite movies do. So it's no surprise that this one would end up on my list, and I think it should be on yours, so give it a watch. All right, this next movie is kind of weird for me. As a wannabe filmmaker, I really appreciate this movie. I think it looks amazing, and I love how the director uses tone and atmosphere to create a horror movie rather than simple jump scares. It's The Witch from 2015. A 17th century New England family struggles with the loss of a child, and paranoia and suspicion lead them to blame their daughter, who they assume is dabbling in witchcraft.
Boom!
I mentioned this one is weird for me because I should love this movie. Again, as a wannabe filmmaker, there's so much to appreciate with this movie. It looks great, it's shot well, the acting is perfect, the lighting, the composition, the tone, the atmosphere. The director, Robert Eggers, does everything perfectly, and it's definitely a great movie, but I usually judge movies on whether or not I can watch them multiple times or how often I can watch a movie. This one's weird because it's so well done, but I don't feel like I could watch this over and over again. In fact, I've only seen it once. I enjoyed it and couldn't stop drooling at how well it was done, but that's it. I don't need to watch it anymore. But if you haven't seen it, you need to at least once. I was really excited when I saw the trailer for this next movie. It's definitely the type of movie that I love. A creature feature set in a simple location. Man versus monster. Well, in this case, it's a mother and daughter versus a hideous monster. It's 2016's The Monster. It's about a mother and daughter that hit something on a spooky, deserted road, leaving their car completely dead. Things get worse when they realize there's a monster in the woods that won't let them escape for help.
Dogs don't got teeth like this.
I love creature features. Slasher movies are fun, but I prefer a hideous monster, and that's what this movie's all about. I love single setting movies where it's just the main characters versus a creature that is trying to kill them, and that's pretty much what this movie is. If I had a small gripe against the movie, it would be the subplot or the subtext of the movie. The monster is a metaphor, and I think it's a bit overdone. I'm a simple guy. I just want to see the creature and the characters trying to survive that creature. And I know the director tried to add subtext to the movie, which is usually a great thing, but I think in this one, it's a bit too on the nose and overdone. And I don't enjoy the movie subplot because of that. It keeps me from putting this movie on my list of rewatchable movies, but I think it's definitely at least worth watching it once if you haven't seen it already. Okay, let's get some more cheesy 80s movies on this list. That's what we're all about here. This next movie is a classic in the horror genre, and even though there are a few movies with a similar plot, this is the only one worth watching. That movie is Child's Play from 1988. There may be other killer doll movies, but this one is the best. It's about a serial killer that transfers his soul into a doll and terrorizes a family in the hopes of resurrecting himself. I don't think I need to say much about this movie. We all know what it is. Even if you're not a big fan of the movie, Chucky has become a part of pop culture, and for a good reason. He is the godfather of killer dolls. The movie is a bit cheesy, but it's fun to watch like most 80s horror movies. So if you have Netflix and you want to watch an 80s classic, this is a good option. This next movie is one of my favorite movies of all time. I would dare to say tied for the top spot with 3 other movies. Wherever it sits in my list, it's definitely a great movie that I have seen probably 100 times. No lie. It's Tremors from 1990. This is how a B-movie should be done. It follows the residents of a tiny town that are being hunted by subterranean monsters, and it's freaking perfect.
Son of a bitch. Son of a bitch!
Now, I'm not kidding when I say I might have watched this movie 100 times and that it's perfect. It's a simple B-monster movie done to perfection. See what I did there?
Yeah, that's not funny.
It has a simple premise, a neat location, great acting, and a memorable movie creature. It's not only watchable, but maybe one of the most rewatchable movies on this list. If you haven't seen it, you definitely should. Even if you don't have Netflix, go buy this one. You won't regret it. I mentioned tone and atmosphere earlier in the list, and I think the next movie is another great example of using the art of filmmaking to create tension and tone, which in my opinion makes the horror parts of the movie that much more effective. That movie is Candyman from 1992. It's about a college student researching superstitions in a rundown apartment building. She finds out that the Candyman stories may be all too real as the gruesome deaths begin to happen all around her.
Be my victim.
This is another classic that everyone seems to know. I think it's because, like I mentioned, there's a tone or a mood or atmosphere that just feels gross and creepy. You're already on the edge of your seat, and then Tony Todd with that voice.
Be my victim.
And all the great gore effects. It's just awesome all around. It may lack a little bit of fun that some of my other favorite movies have, but it's an awesome horror movie that needs to be watched. Speaking of fun that sometimes exists in movies, this next horror director absolutely knows how to combine horror with comedy, making really fun to watch horror classics. And no surprise, it's from the 80s. That movie is The Evil Dead from 1981. Another simple setting where an ancient evil is released on a group of friends that are visiting a cabin in the woods. Ash, the hero, must make some difficult decisions as he watches his friends turn into monsters and attack him.
Why are you torturing me like this? Why?
The first movie in the series is a bit more serious than the rest, and I did a whole video on that if you're interested in my thoughts, but even with the attempts at more serious tone, the budget made it difficult for Sam Raimi to pull off the movie that he wanted, so it's left a little more cheesy, and I think that adds charm to the movie. If you're watching this channel, I'm sure you've already seen this one, but it's on Netflix, and it's obviously worth the watch. I just recently talked about this last movie in one of my other videos, because according to me and Alec Kerr, it is a modern day horror movie that feels kind of like those cheesy movies that I grew up watching. It's The Babysitter from 2017. It's about a young kid that stays up past his bedtime and catches his babysitter murdering a person in a satanic ritual. The cult will then stop at nothing to keep the kid quiet.
I got 2 people's blood on me. You do the math.
What can I say about this movie that I didn't say in the other video? It's a horror comedy done really well. I thought there was a lot of great gore effects and some pretty fun camera work. I think the acting was great. Child actors often do a crappy job and take me out of the movie, but I think Judah Lewis did a good job, and it's hard to take your eyes off of Samara Weaving. She's awesome in this. I think this is a great movie for people that love old school horror like me, and for people that like modern movies. It has it all. So what do you think? Have you watched some of these movies on Netflix? And if I had a movie night at my house with popcorn and beer and we were watching these movies, would you want to hang out? I'm joking. I don't invite people to my house. Just stay away from my beer and get your own damn popcorn.
That escalated quickly.
Obviously, there are a lot of great movies available on Netflix, and we could probably argue all day about which ones are worth watching, but these are the ones that stood out to me, and I'd love to know which ones you would watch in the comments below. And if you want to see more videos like this, then give it a like. That way I know that you like these type of videos, and I'll try to do more. Don't forget to comment and subscribe.
Be one of us.
And I will see you in the next video.